I would like to invite my best friend, my uh, mentor, Dr. Imran S. Khawaja, to talk about crisis management in the time of coronavirus pandemic. Dr. Khawaja.
So I want to accomplish is that we want to learn about how we can manage this crisis in the time of this pandemic. So one of the things we need to do is we need to acknowledge, but let's move on to the next slide. Just an introduction, but let's move to the next one. Okay, so as Dr. Maya suggested, all of you, all of us on this planet is going through some sort of crisis. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, if you're in the armed forces, if you're working on a store, if you're driving a cab, if you're a nurse, doctor, lawyer. All of us are going through this crisis at this point. So one of the first things we should do is we should acknowledge that we are going through some crisis. Acknowledging the fact that we are going through crisis kind of helps us. It helps us wanting to take the next step in life. So we are all in crisis. So we have to acknowledge that. I was talking to one of the authors and speakers, John Kehoe, and he's got a very nice video. He talks about how when we acknowledge what's going on in our lives, what states we are going in, we have a better chance of really changing that state. So the first step is awareness. If you're aware of the fact that we're going through crisis, then we can do something. But if you're not even aware of it, we're not going to do anything. So that is very important, that we understand that there is a crisis going on. And in our lives, when we go through lives, all of us go through a lot of crises. When we are growing up, for example, when we are teenagers, we go through crisis. All of us, most of us I know, like Dr. Maya, my brother, myself, people who have immigrated from another country, there's a big crisis when you leave your country. So all of us have gone through a lot of crises. So we have managed those crises. So it's good to remember that we went through a lot of crises and we were able to manage. So we are all in it together, even though we cannot hold hands, but we could connect with each other. We can support each other. So this is a time where it is in a life which is going to define us. So the whole idea is that crisis can make a person, it can break a person. So who is going to be us? Are we going to be the person who's going to come out of this crisis and really thrive and do actually even better, versus somebody who's going to be bogged down and not being able to function well? And we're going to review some of the strategies which we can discuss and see whether it can help us in the future. So now this is crisis oriented therapy is available, meaning that there are people who are trained in doing crisis therapy. So whenever a person goes through a crisis, you can see that a person is living a normal life. Now this coronavirus happened, as you can see by this error. So there's a huge crisis in our lives. People who are working, a lot of them have lost their jobs. They are having trouble with going to school, their relationships, they're staying at home. So it is a huge crisis going on in everybody's life. But just like any crisis, any crisis we go through, it doesn't have to be the coronavirus. This is happening right now. But any crisis we go through, there are actually three outcomes. If you look at the whole crisis-oriented therapy, there are three outcomes which could happen when a person goes through crisis. Like it could be a crisis, somebody loses a partner or somebody dies in the family. It's a huge crisis, but there are three things which could happen. One is that the person could go through the crisis and can start living their life as normal. They go back to the baseline. So number one, which is the straight line, you can see they may go back to baseline. But then people who are not able to cope with crisis, they may start functioning poorly, meaning they cannot take care of themselves well. They're having trouble. They may indulge into some other practices like drinking, things like that. Their functioning deteriorates. So even if the crisis goes away, they're not able to function anymore. They need help. They can't go back to their job. So they keep on having a lot of these crises throughout their lives in the future. But let's look at the third option, the top one, which is on the top arrow, which is a person kind of learns from that crisis. They become stronger from their crisis. So if it cannot kill them, it makes you stronger. So I think Eleanor Roosevelt once said, if it doesn't break you, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. So that's what we are talking about right now. All we want you to do is we learn from this crisis, we gather our strength, we gather our emotional strength, and then we become better. We plan in the future what we can do. We look at what resources do we have. So when the crisis is over, we are in a better state, better than what we were before the crisis. No, this is a Chinese character. I'm not. So in Chinese, for example, Chinese do not have a word for crisis. They use two words for crisis. One of them is danger. Obviously, when a crisis is there, there is danger. But then the other word is opportunity. So in Chinese, crisis is written as danger and opportunity at the same time. So if there is danger, there's always opportunity. But the thing is, our mind is focused on the danger aspect. Yes, we have to worry about the corona situation. We have to take care of ourselves. But there are a lot of opportunities within this crisis. So I'd like to educate and tell you that we can all learn how to find opportunities in crisis. So, for example, everybody is fearful right now. So we can give whatever meaning we want to give in our lives to those events. So life is happening for us. It is not just happening to do, as Tony Robbins say. So if you think of it, you can say fear could have two different meanings. A person could be fearful and say, forget everything or fear everything and run. That is the flight response which a person can have. Or you can face everything and rise. You can think about what you can do in this crisis. In the next slide, we will learn about how we could do that. So this is a concept which has been very famous. And Stephen Covey, who's the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, has talked about this in his book. So this is what we want to do at this point. Because whatever happens, for example, a person goes through stimulus, something happens, which is a stimulus, a person responds right away. Something bad happens, person gets into an overwhelm, and their reaction could be they're getting into panic, they're getting into angry outbursts, they're worrying about things. So that's kind of more reactive thinking. What Stephen Covey talks about is that we can learn that when a stimulus happens, even if it's a bad one, we should try to have more space between what something happens and what we are going to respond with. So we can have choices, we can make decisions how we want to respond to this situation rather than having an automatic reaction. Now, Viktor Frankl was one of the psychologists back in the 50s and 60s, and he was actually in a huge crisis when he found himself in the Nazis camp and his wife was killed. Everybody was killed. And he was able to think about what he wanted in his life. He loved his wife so much that he focused on staying alive during this time, that once he's going to be able to get out of it, he would survive. Just because of that mindset, he was able to go through that crisis and came out of the other end of the crisis and came to the US and became a very famous psychiatrist. Some of his colleagues who were with him, they lost their positivity. They could not focus on what they wanted. They focused on they're going to die, somebody's going to kill them, and that's what happened. They died in that crisis. So it's how we take, what the meaning we are giving it to a particular crisis makes a huge difference. We've already covered this. So I want to share with this. If you look at anybody who's been successful in their lives, and I'm not just talking about material success, think about Mother Teresa, who's been able to help. All of these people have gone through major crises. That you know the story of Oprah, I mean, she went through a lot of crisis. She went through a lot of abuse. So this is what she says. She says, the single greatest thing you can do to change your life today would be to start being grateful for what you have right now. So think about what good things you have. If you are healthy right now, if you have family members, you can focus on that. Whatever things which you have, if you have food to eat, you can focus rather than worrying about the future. And the more grateful you are, the more you will get. Because when we get into feelings of gratefulness, we are in a thankful state. What happens is that our fear calms down. And fear is innate. It's been built into us, but it's our job to how to manage it. Now, I can assure you that, again, there are a lot of people who are struggling financially. There are people, you may be having some people are getting sick. I know some people who are sick, some of them actually died. But what will happen is that this crisis is ultimately going to go away. If you look at the history of these pandemics, things happen over the span of time, vaccine comes out, things get better. But this is the time which we want to really think about what we want to do in our life. We want to reflect. So I want to, we want to talk about what we can do in these times, some practical tips, something if you practice every daily, just like Dr. Mayap suggested, and some of these are the same ideas, is going to immensely help you. So when I'm talking to my patients, and right now I'm seeing all my patients through telemedicine like Zoom, so some of the breathing exercises, all of us know that when you are stressed, when you breathe rhythmically, you feel better. But we don't do that. We forget about it. So put some reminders that you got to breathe. Just put a small note on the desk or wherever you are. Remember to breathe. So when you breathe, you focus in taking in a in breath. And when you're breathing out, take out the stress. Let the stress go away. Just imagine the stress leaving your body. And you can do it as many times in your life or in the day as you like. Similarly, when we talked about gratitude, there are two or three different ways of feeling the gratitude, which means that you are emotionally, mentally, with your heart, feeling that you are thankful for what you've got. Doesn't matter what you believe in God or whatever you believe in a higher power. But what I'm telling my patients is that when you wake up in the morning, write down 5 things you are thankful about. Because what it does, it really helps you change the focus from the stress that you're stressed out, what's going to happen to the job. It gets you into a state where you're feeling thankful. And as the law of attraction says, whatever emotional state you are more in, you're going to attract a lot more of that emotional state. But remember one thing, that when you are in that state of gratitude, I want you to remember a time when you felt at immense peace and also felt gratitude. But when you're remembering it as you are really seeing it from your eyes, you are in the body seeing it. You're really letting it soak into your cells, into your body. When you're breathing in, you breathe that, but when you visualize what you're thankful about, you write it down, but you let the feeling sink in. The third practice, which is very important in people who are successful, and any athlete who is successful does that, which is that you visualize the future. But in this situation, what we want to do is we want to visualize that 2 months, 3 months down the road, we have gone through this crisis and we are back to living a better life. We are able to flourish in our businesses or our jobs. We are even healthier. So I want you to visualize that at least 2 to 3 minutes every day, how your life is going to be when this crisis is over. Because your subconscious mind will really take that in, and it will relax each and every part of your body. So this is also something which I found on net, but I kind of changed that. The word corona is bringing in fear, but it doesn't have to bring in fear. Just change that meaning. So think of CORONA, corona. So C, stay calm, comfort others. O for organize your thoughts, organize your daily activities, just organize your day, bring a schedule, a structure to your day. Then R is to reflect, to rest. Right now is the time you can take as much as rest as you want. So when I'm seeing patients, some of my patients are really in crisis, but some of them are actually relaxed. They say, doc, we are enjoying it because we are at home, we are with the family, so we're just taking it easy. The work is not that stressed. Then reflecting on what's happened in your life throughout. What can you do better? How can you help others? So the sense of serving others is going to be important. Offer help to people in need. Because when we are in that emotional state, when we are trying to help others, we forget about everything else. Now, we do have to take care of ourselves. As Dr. Maya said, I believe you got to take care of yourself. You need the oxygen first before in the plane if you need. You don't have to help unless you are struggling. But if you're doing well, help others because it will also help. Now, the N stands for navigate and nurture. Look at what's going on. Understand how things are changing in life. Anticipate. If you are in a business, look at how businesses are going to change. If you are in business, you can look at getting a loan. If you make sure that you talk to people on the phone to see if there's what you can get in terms of any stimulus package. So communicate, talk, navigate, but help others people. And then A for accomplish what you plan to do. So plan for the day, for the week. If you are at home, plan what you need to do, what you need to accomplish. Even if it means that you need to develop a better relationship with your kids, interact with them, then you work on that and accomplish that. So just change the meaning from the fear, the stress to making it work for you. Moving on to the next slide. So think about all the crises you've gone through in your life. You're here, you went through all those crises. You didn't think, imagine when you were going through a major crisis, you thought you're not going to be able to go through it, but you remained strong and you were able to go through it. And this is just one of those crises. And I can tell you, I cannot promise anybody, only God knows, higher power knows what the end result is going to be. But we know that things are getting better. So this is going to be having an end. Just yesterday, I was reading a news that I think we're going to have some vaccine maybe by September. So once the vaccine comes, things will change. But I want all of you to understand things are going to be different for the next several months, so be mentally prepared. It's going to be a little bit long haul. So far you've survived 100% of your worst days. This will pass too, so make sure that you support each other, help each other. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to move on and give the mic to my brother Rizwan Shuja. He and I, we finished this book Cycle of Fulfillment, but a lot of chapters, a lot of thoughts are pertinent to what's happening right now. So I'm going to hand it over to the coordinator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Imran. That was a fantastic presentation. Um,
I would like to invite Mr. Shuja to talk about cycles of fulfillment. Mr. Shuja.
Hello. Hi, Dr. Maya. Thank you very much for having me here. We have written a book called Cycle of Fulfillment with my brother Imran. It is very relevant to the current crisis situation. Basically, what we have talked about is what is success. For most of the people, success is having a lot of money. A big house is success. For somebody, maybe winning a Olympics and medal might be success. For somebody, maybe having a great relationship with God and not having any material thing might be success. We have defined success is achieving 5 goals. Number 1, the most important one is mental emotional fulfillment. Number 2 is physical health and fitness. And number 3, relationships, which has 2 parts, relationship with people and relationship with God, which is essentially the same thing. And number 4 is your career, which could be your job, business, or could be school, depending on what you do. And number 5 is financial wealth and material things. So if we look at mental emotional fulfillment, which is mostly the focus of today's talk is, and it directly is affected by the today's crisis. So mental emotional fulfillment means to experience positive emotions and not experience negative emotions like hate, jealousy, anger, resentment, worry, fear, stress, guilt, etc. And also be able to cultivate positive emotions like love, compassion, tolerance, kindness, the need of giving, happiness, joy, peace, gratitude, etc. So whatever we have done in life, starting from going to school, then university, coming to America, getting jobs, buying houses, cars, getting married, partying, the real goal behind all those goals was to feel certain kind of emotions, positive emotions, and also to prevent us from feeling negative emotions or painful emotions like fears, fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of embarrassment, uncertainty, insecurities, etc. So even if I want to buy a BMW, let's say, the real goal behind it was to feel certain emotions. So our brain is trained in a way that we want to feel good emotions and prevent ourselves from painful emotions. So mental emotional fulfillment, if we are experiencing good positive emotional state, then it directly affects our happiness, as Dr. Maya and Dr. Imran has already gone over it, that it directly affects our happiness, physical and mental health and fitness. And also if we don't have the negative emotions, and we have the positive emotions, then it and the need of giving, then it automatically fixes our relationships with people. And also having good relationship with people is directly a good relationship with God. And also, if we are experiencing good mental emotional state, our focus and productivity goes through the roof. So that directly affect our jobs, businesses, and school. And if we are growing and progressing and thriving in our business and job, then money comes with it. So the point was to prove that mental emotional fulfillment affects everything we have. So the most important thing is to stay in always in a positive and good mental emotional state, to have good thoughts. But somebody can say, okay, I understand that how it affects. So, but how do we do that? Please go to the next slide. So, but somebody can say, okay, I understand that mental emotional fulfillment is very important, and if I'm having all the negative emotions of worry, fear, resentment, and hate, and all that, then it is affecting my happiness, health, my relationship with God, people, my job, my focus, my finances, everything. But how do I control it? So in the next slide we are going to go over how do we do that. So uh, happiness is a state of inner fulfillment. So fulfillment, the difference, happiness is not always fulfillment. Long term happiness is fulfillment. Somebody might get happiness by doing drugs or getting drunk, or maybe they get pleasure by beating up someone, or so anything that is not good for you or for others in the long term cannot be fulfillment. So fulfillment is basically experiencing emotions and thoughts which is good for you and for others in the long term. Next slide, please. So how do we achieve that mental emotional fulfillment so we have control over our emotions and thoughts, that we do not have negative emotions and encounter positive emotions? It is very difficult. It takes time and practice. So the number one thing would be conscious awareness. Second would be understanding the mechanics and repetition. Then the third one would be change the meanings of the things. Fourth would be control your thoughts. Fifth would be live in the present. And then sixth is practice gratitude. So conscious awareness means that to read books, articles, go into meetings like this, listen to the videos. So if you listen to that and realize that, how it works, then it definitely affects 10 to 15% of your negative emotions and it starts to cultivate positive emotions. And the second one is understanding the mechanics. Understanding the mechanics is that many people do not realize that these negative emotions, even wanting bad for someone, or worry or fear or stress, how is it affecting their health, their happiness, their relationships, their focus, their productivity, their school, their job, their business, their finances. If you understand the mechanics, how it is hurting you, it is further going to influence you more, and you are more likely to stop thinking about negative thoughts. So change the meaning of the events. They say that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Max Planck has said that. Also, nothing in life has any meaning except for the meaning you give it. The emotions of anger or worry or fear or even happiness you experience is not the result of the event, but it's the result of the meaning we give it. So Dr. Maya also talked about it, Dr. Imran talked about it. Give it a different meaning, give it a positive meaning. I give an example. Most of us are from subcontinent. So when we go to India, Pakistan, or Nepal, it takes 20 hours to get to back home. And it's a long flight, and it's very painful for most of the people to sit in a small seat for 20 hours. But when I landed in Lahore last time, I was hoping that my flight was 30 minutes longer. Why? Because I was watching a movie called Reverend, and it still had 30 minutes to go. So I give it a meaning that nobody is going to call me, text me, email me, bother me, and I can meditate, I can pray, I can eat or drink anything, I can watch movies, listen to the music. So the exact same experience is very painful for someone and pleasurable for someone. So change the meaning of the things. Okay, next slide. So control your mind, control your thoughts, control your emotions. And how do we control our thoughts? So whenever we get negative emotions, it could be anything. It could be hate, it could be anger, could be resentment, could be worry, could be stress, could be fear, could be selfishness, could be greed, could be ego, could be the emotions of approval. So whenever we get that emotions, let's say we get angry at someone or fearful someone. We'll take the example of angry. If we are angry at someone, we can change the meaning first. Initially, we can change the meaning that maybe they didn't mean that, or people do the best they can do. So we don't have to be angry. So if that doesn't work, then the second thing would be to communicate with the person. If that doesn't work, then we can change our procedure. So whenever we get a negative thought, try to change the meaning. If you cannot change the meaning, then communicate with the person. And if that doesn't work, then we change our behavior. Most of the problems, solution for the problems we are looking outside, most of the time they're inside us. If we fix our inside, then the solution for the outside problem will come by itself. Next slide, please. Also, to live in the present. Live one day at a time. If you live in the past, then you will have a lot of regrets and remorse. And if you live in the future, nobody has seen the future. Nobody knows the future. You can just say that I can work hard, I can try, but you still don't know. So if you live in the future, then there's uncertainty and insecurity that creates fear and stress and worry. So live at the present moment, enjoy the present moment. Next slide. Practice gratitude. That's the most important thing we can practice. We just some thinking of something. Some people say that I have nothing to be grateful for. Just that we are still alive is something to be grateful for. We are still above the ground. This is something to be grateful for. We have to be grateful for the people in our life, our spouses, our parents, our children, brothers, sisters, uncles, nephews, nieces, co-workers, cousins, business partners. Be grateful for them and be grateful for all the accomplishments we have done, for all the food on our table. We didn't have to cook that food, we didn't have to grow that food. All the roads we didn't have to build, all these jobs we didn't have to create, we just have to go get them. All the businesses that were already there, we just had to buy. Be grateful. We could have been in Iraq, we could have been in Syria where people are dying, we could have been in Ethiopia where there's no food. So practice gratitude and be grateful for what we have. Focus on the things we have, and whatever we focus on, that grows. If you focus on what we don't have, then that will grow. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Shuja. Now, thank you, Dr. Pokral. And now,
what are the main signs and symptoms of anxiety, stress, or fear?
So anxiety symptoms are sometimes, like as Dr. Maya suggested, physiological, bodily response. A lot of times people get into panic attacks where they suddenly out of the blue, they are stressed, but they cannot explain those symptoms. They feel they can't breathe, they're having chest pain, they think they're going to die. So this mind starts worrying about things. So the cognitive symptoms and physical symptoms. So when we look at anxiety, I mean, there are three main types of anxiety. One can be more like panic disorder. One can be more like generalized anxiety, which means that people are worried about things. They can't just shut their mind. They're always tense. They cannot shut. If small thing happens, they're thinking about it all the time. But remember, the key thing is that anxiety, everybody has some anxiety. You need some anxiety to function. It becomes a problem when it is paralyzing. It's not, you're not able to function. Your relationships are getting affected. You're not able to sleep. You're not able to work or concentrate. Then it becomes a problem.
Question was, what kind of physical exercise would you recommend to handle stress going on due to this pandemic?
There are two kinds of exercises in general. One could be lifting weights, and one could be cardio. So whatever exercises we do, it releases endorphins in our body, and it releases stress and anxiety. So depending on the person's age and goals, not everybody can lift heavy weights and build muscles and stuff. So in general, if we go over it, let's say if somebody is young and athletically fit, then what he can do, work out 5 to 6 times a week just for 1 hour. It doesn't have to be too much. 30 minutes of lifting weights and 30 minutes of cardio. So the cardio would help us make our lungs and heart stronger, and also it will help us stay lean. When you stay lean, of course, when you don't accumulate fat, then it will prevent you being fat, or always is a catalyst to all the diseases. So it will help you with blood pressure, diabetes, and insomnia, and all these cholesterol. And then lifting weight will help you become stronger and have vitality. And also it increases our BMR. So in that way, we can eat more and still be lean.
Ordinary like citizens like us can do to encourage, to motivate, to healthcare workers? So that's my one question. And then since we are practicing social distancing, if this social distancing prolonged, what is the chances that people will be agoraphobic? So they will be, scared of going to the public?
Absolutely. It is. I think you're going to see some of it. When, say, for example, we come up with the vaccine tomorrow and things open up, people are going to be scared. I mean, even I'm not going to go on a cruise right away. So it doesn't mean I have social phobia. I can't go into a cruise. It's just it's going to take some time. Some people may develop some PTSD. I mean, people have seen suffering, or some people have seen death and fear. There, for example, there are cases where some physicians have actually committed suicide because they're seeing so much of death and gloom. So there's going to be some aftermath of that. But as humans, our spirit is so strong. Ultimately, we come out of that. Like, we come out of world wars, we come out of major crisis. So I think it's going to be time, which is going to heal it. Once the things is over, things will get back to normal, but it may take some time. But we should be mentally prepared that it may be another 6 months, maybe another year, maybe another 2 years. But so we have to kind of be mentally prepared for that. But that's a good question, though.
Other than that, thanking all our panelists, Imran, Dr. Imran Khawaja, motivational speaker, life coach, Rizwan, Shuja, Dr. Maya, अनि हाम्रो Dr. Pokrel, र सबै साथीहरूलाई thank you so much.